mother divorced my dad when I was 10 because she wanted to work rather than stay home to raise my sister and me. She got her way, working long hours as a single mom and struggling to keep my sister and me from tearing each other apart in our endless squabbles. Because our mother worked the second shift, my sister and I were latchkey kids long before that became common. My mother coped with her busy life by becoming a recluse when she was at home, so my sister and I quickly learned to depend on ourselves. If someone could be independence personified, it was my mom, and I grew up thinking that was how I should be too. How many women today mirror the situation the prophet Ezekiel wrote about? You are a true daughter of your mother, who despised her husband and her children. Ezekiel chapter 16, verse 45. Unfortunately, I didn't learn how destructive the stronghold of independence was in my own marriage until it was almost too late. The concept of being God's helper to the man I married was totally foreign to me. Your mother may be entirely different than mine, and the changes our Lord needs to make in you may not be as character-altering as mine. But each of us has another mother from whom we all inherited a curse, and that curse significantly influences us to undermine our marriage and family. That mother is Eve. Through the deceived and rebellious first woman, all women are born under a curse. And this curse can only be undone by the work of Jesus Christ in each of us to circumcise our hearts into His likeness. As I look back, this process is really what's happened in me over the past 12 years. A curse has been replaced with a gradual transformation in my innermost being, an ongoing pilgrimage that continues today. Why I respond as I do now has nothing in common with the motivations of the Sue who was so influenced by Eve's curse. Listen to Genesis chapter 3, verse 16. To the woman, God said, I will greatly increase your pains in childbearing. With pain, you will give birth to children. Your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you.
What is the connection between a woman's desire and her husband's rule?
All women would be cursed with the desire to usurp their husband's authority.
Isn't this where Eve went wrong in the first place? Ignoring the warning God had given to Adam about the forbidden tree.
For women, marriage would be an ongoing battle for control. We'd manipulate where necessary to get our way, just as Eve tempted her husband with fruit from her own hand. And when our husbands give in to us, as spineless King Ahab did with his evil wife Jezebel, it only makes matters worse for our families.
A leading cause for men to choose a homosexual lifestyle is a dominating mother and a weak, passive, or absent father. Think about this.
And please remember an important point. The curse we women inherit doesn't originate from Eve's relationship with Adam. It stems from her desire to live above all accountability.
The first woman gave in to Satan's temptation because in her heart she entertained the idea of making her own decisions independent of God or her husband.
She was ready to be deceived. By disobeying that which God had made clear, she trusted her own desire for self-will. Her eyes would be opened, and she would be like God, knowing good and evil.
Her eyes were certainly open, but what she saw brought her shame and fear. Eve's quest to be like God cursed countless generations of women to contest her husband's authority as leader of their home.
Satan found a kindred heart in the woman. He himself had the same self-exalting motive that caused him to be driven from God's presence in heaven.
The next passage addresses the presumptuous sin of the king of Babylon. It offers a clear and disturbing picture of the devil's handiwork that drove that monarch.
How you have fallen from heaven, O morning star, son of the dawn. You have been cast down to the earth, you who once laid low the nations. You said in your heart, I will ascend to heaven. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit enthroned on the Mount of Assembly, on the utmost heights of the sacred mountain. I will ascend above the tops of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. Isaiah chapter 14, verses 12 through 14.
Rebellion against the laws of God are certainly one level of disobedience. But to want to be like him in power and authority, as Satan and Eve did, cost them everything. Satan lost his position in heaven. Our first parents lost intimate fellowship with God in the garden.
How do you respond to the reality of the curse we women have inherited from our first mother? The desire to rule our homes.
In what ways did your own mother train you to be godly? In what ways did she inadvertently train you to be like Eve?
Why look back at Eve?
Our Lord Jesus set the pattern for the covenant union of marriage as the bridegroom of his bride, the church. That bride encompasses each of us called out ones who follow him until the end.
Our Lord's plan for husbands and wives was for them to faithfully represent him together in the physical realm as a picture of his spiritual relationship with his bride.
Jesus is the head and his bride is the body. Paul's timeless instruction should be imprinted on our hearts. But I want you to understand that Christ is the head of every man, and the man is the head of the woman, and God is the head of Christ.
For man does not originate from woman, but woman from man. For indeed, man was not created for the woman's sake, but woman for the man's sake. 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 3, 8, and 9.
That godly pattern was shattered in the Garden of Eden. God had given authority over creation to Adam as the one he selected to name the animals and tend the garden.
Eve was called the suitable helper for her husband because she was to come alongside him in the work God gave them to do. Sounds good so far, right?
By creating the man first, God was setting into place his pattern of relational order. Woman was designed to follow her husband's leadership.
In the Hebrew language, she was literally a helper who answered to him. She shared responsibility in the garden work and responded to her husband's uniquely human nature with loving support.
Do you view yourself as your husband's helper, the woman suitable for him? Yes or no? If no, how do you see your relationship to him?